Hello, everyone, and welcome to Eternal X Wolfpack Paranormal, the podcast. I am your host, Sean Ellis. We have an amazing guest tonight, Mr. Thomas Patrick Gormley. He's got a lot of titles that we'll probably be covering tonight as well. He's a shaman. He's worked in the crisis management, criminal profiling, and several other things. So we're going to learn a little bit about Thomas tonight as well. With everything he's done as well. I'm kind of tongue-tied right there. We also have my amazing co-host. She's sitting backstage. We are going to introduce the powerhouse producer for All Access Network Television, Miss Gwen Johns.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you today, Gwen?
I'm good.
You've definitely had a busy weekend. You guys have been doing some investigations, and I'm kind of jealous.
Well, we tried to include you. We called you up, that kind of thing, the best we could when it would pick up.
I did a little bit of narrating
this weekend.
I did a little bit of narrating for you here last night, and that was definitely an interesting thing that you guys did as well with the house and that location. And then in a few weeks, I will actually be with you guys, and we'll be going to a powwow and a few other investigations of our own, I think. Right?
Yes. Busy weekend then, or busy week, actually. Yeah.
So tonight we have Thomas Patrick Gormley. He is also on your show with Lee and Blaine, serial killers and paranormal, etc.
Serial killers, supernatural, and murderers.
Yep, it's a long thing. I can't remember the whole saying for that for sure, but it's okay. It's an awesome show. Every time I watch it, I definitely learn something new on there because you guys break down everything and learn something new about killers and what they've done that maybe I didn't even hear of, because you guys really dig into those things for sure.
Everybody's awesome. We have a good time also. That makes it even better.
So we're and Thomas was on the show with all of you guys at one time, but since there was 4 of you at the time, we didn't get a chance to ask everybody individually certain things. Mm-hmm. So we're definitely breaking it down. So Thomas is kicking it off with the 4-parter with you guys, and let's bring him on.
Bring him on.
Hello, Thomas.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Excited for this one. I got a couple of my favorite peeps.
Well,
and then everybody out there listening in and watching.
Yeah, thank you for that. I definitely got to meet you right when I started with these guys, and I started doing collaborations with them. And I definitely found you very interesting. We've got a few things in common as well. And we're going to talk about some of that as well, too. But let's find out a little bit about you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself for the people on my side and my fans that don't know anything about you? But I'm sure quite a few of them probably do, though.
Yeah. I think I'm going to keep it secret. No, I'm kidding. No, it goes way back. Middle school, I think it was maybe 14, 15 at the time. When you have energies come in, you don't know what they are. You have questions, and I was lucky enough to meet Ed and Lorraine Warren at the time. Right. And Lorraine really helped me realize that I was an empath, and helped me develop that over the years. I lost track of them going into college, did my college thing, growing up, adulting, and all that. I always was on the outskirts of the industry. I always did a lot behind the scenes, but I never came out being on a lot of these shows until over the last 12 years. And a lot of that's after my mom passed away. I felt it important to bring that out. But, I worked in the state of Florida. I was a crisis negotiator for the region. I worked at a psychiatric prison in a confinement unit. And in that process, you learn how to profile the inmates in case something goes down. You're able to realize and put a plan together on the psychology of those certain inmates in case something happens. So that's kind of my background with that. but it's always been a balance of that true crime, and paranormal over the years. Of course,
Mhm.
paranormal has been in my life the longest. You're talking over 40 years now. And, law enforcement has been a good 25 years. So, that's always stemmed from it. Those have been my constants. Plus, being a singer-songwriter, so those three things have been a constant of mine
Oh
for a
wow!
while.
You
Yeah.
actually sing? You actually sing?
Yeah, I was actually a runner-up to be on the show Nashville Star back when it was on years ago, around the same time
Oh
when
wow!
when American Idol first came out. So we're talking
Right.
early 2000. So I got really close. There's been a few times, and I used to travel back and forth, do demos, and sing for other people, and try and make a couple extra bucks. But
So now I'm curious because that's the first time I've heard that. What kind of music do you
well,
sing then?
you wanted to know, so I'm going to give you everything tonight.
So
I'm going to
so
throw
what?
things in sync for you.
So what kind of music did you sing?
I was a country singer, but in high school I was in a band. We were in a rock band. We used to play all like Rush, Queen, and Led Zeppelin, and
Oh,
anything you could think of. The non-hair metal bands, because we had a thing called the Battle of the Bands that we would do during the festival in our town. So everybody would play whatever's going on at the time, and we decided to play stuff nobody else was playing, just to be
mhm,
original and do our own
Good
songs,
idea.
just trying to stand out. So it's always
right.
been that way. I've always been that guy that's never thought inside the box. I've always been outside the box, hence the name The Glorious Weirdo. So I've always been a sarcastic son of a gun too, and I just that's the way I am, and I guess some people you either like me or you don't. Either
True.
you get the funny or you don't. So, but I'm always in it for everybody. Like my
Yes,
main
he is.
goal. Yep, my main goal in life has always been from day one doing the paranormal is help the living and help the dead. And
Right.
that really comes into tune with being a shaman, being able to go on both sides of the veil, but having that psychology background too. I'm able
Mhm,
to help the living get through maybe some trauma along with somebody that's passed that doesn't know they passed and trauma is holding them back and how to
mhm,
deal with that. Um, their meat suit's gone. They still have that
right.
frequency or those feelings or that energy, and able to work them through that to help them make that decision to move on. So that's where a lot of that comes in. But on top of that, I'm involved with a lot of things, events,
Mhm, you are.
coordinating events with my partner Charles Rosenay. We are called the Shaman and the Showman. So up in New England, we do a lot of events. Our biggest events, of course, the upcoming Connecticut Paracon with two N's and True Crime Conference, which Gwen
Mhm.
will be at. So which is going
Yes.
to be exciting. We got to get you there sometime soon, Sean. And
Oh, definitely.
yeah, and
Definitely.
that's a big one. Our main guest that everybody knows is going to be Butch Patrick, who plays
Yeah.
Eddie
Mhm.
Munster or played
That,
Eddie Munster. So he's
that's
our
actually
main
really cool.
guest for the festival.
It's gonna be so
There,
cool.
oh yeah, we got a lot of great people. Check out all
Yes.
the people on it's Paracon PARACONN.org. You'll be able to pull up all the people that are going to be there. There still might be another special guest, don't know yet, but we're working on that one. And my
That'd
friend
be cool.
Raven. So
That's definitely
Hey,
I
cool.
love
Raven.
Raven. Raven and I did it. She came to one of our events recently, and she really helped out. We were getting in touch with some spirits on a trolley, and that was really incredible to have her energy with me. Was awesome. So she's going to be one of the special guests at the Paracon.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, and then
We
after
all
that, our next big one after that is the Connecticut Witch Festival. So
Ooh.
now, a lot of people don't know historically, Connecticut, 45 years before Salem, had convicted 11 people of witchcraft. Of course, they weren't. At the
Mhm,
time, that's just the
right.
craziness of it. And we are bringing that history to life for people to learn, because when somebody says witch trials here in New England, they're first going to go to Salem. But it was Connecticut first. That's what really started the craze throughout New England when people started jumping on the bandwagon as the
Right.
time went on. But it started there first. A couple years ago, our last festival was last year for the first time, because the year before, the court system from some of the ancestors finally we're able to exonerate them as not being guilty of witchcraft.
Right.
So we want to celebrate that, give the history. And unfortunately, we still use the witch moniker, but sometimes when you're running an event, I want to bring people in, and sometimes that brings people in, and then we can tell them what happened. So they're getting to have a little of everything, but most importantly, know the history of what happened.
Right.
And speaking of Salem, our next big festival is the Salem Paranormal and Horror Fest, and that's in November. And that's going to be a big one. I'm hoping that the crew will be back up for that one.
I want to.
Yeah, that's a big one. We've had that one for quite a few years. Last year's one, it was the 50th anniversary of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and we had five of the actors from the original movie that appeared to sign autographs and all that. So that was a big one last year.
Awesome.
The year before that, we had a few actors from the original Friday the 13th. And so we always try and give it like a little nostalgia, put a little of that. So we have some things up our sleeve for this year. But we litter in some psychic fairs. And also, usually we try and do once a month. We have people come on a little ghost adventure with us at sites that nobody really goes to. So they're not sites that are done over and over and over again. So you're getting brand new energy to hopefully have a paranormal experience. So that's kind of what I do in a way, but there's so many other things. Like you said, I have a lot of titles, so I feel I feel like a character on the Game of Thrones sometimes.
You're more than what they call a triple threat, because you know how the actors, they sing, dance, and then they do their shows and stuff like that. You've got a lot of titles, which are very interesting as well.
Only halfway through it, but go ahead.
We got Mark D. Walsh in the house. We've got Raven Wolf in the house, and we've got Lee Brown in the house. We all know she's the CEO of All Access Network Television.
Oh, I know her.
And she will be my guest next week as well.
Yes.
So, but yeah, let's go back a little bit.
Yeah.
You said you were an empath from when you were young, and you met Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Yeah, I had a relationship mostly with Lorraine. I think she was really helping me out. You know, over the years, you know, when I first met them, of course, I couldn't drive at the time I met them. So we used to have people who drive over, and it was usually on Halloween. They would have a little shindig at the house where people would pay to go in and get to see the exorcism stuff that they did, the stuff they don't show when they were on the college circuit, touring around warning people about playing with talking boards and summoning and divination and things like that. But yeah, she helped me with that. And, you know, Ed, of course, Ed was a great guy, a no nonsense type of guy, but had the biggest heart. And Lorraine, like I said, was always like everybody's grandmother. She was always so nice and stately looking and all that. So, and, you know, I'm always going to back them no matter what. Without them, none of us would be talking right now. And that's what people remember.
Most definitely. Yep. So I'm sure Lorraine picked up that you were an empath. You know, did she help you hone your skills and start showing you other things on how to make them
she really was in teaching mode. And at the time I met him, really it wasn't until maybe a couple of years after that they really started doing the classes that they would teach other people. Because that's like the crossover when they really started getting a lot of cases where they had to teach people how they do things so they could go out and see the case. And if it was something really bad, then Ed and Lorraine would come in. So they would train people. I wasn't part of that because I was like too young at the time. You know, I really, when I went off to college, I just lost track of them. You know, and I still to this day appreciate it and remember that time, because I think if it wasn't for Lorraine, you know, I don't think I know what I was. And, you know, sometimes when you don't know feelings like that, it could put you in a serious situation on the psychological level.
Oh, yeah, most definitely, especially when you walk into like a big case or an investigation that you're at that's got heavy stuff in it as well. Yeah. How did Ed play a factor in this with you? Did he teach you other type of things? Because I know they were a little different.
Yeah, sometimes when you have two people like that and you're over the house, there's a few people also on top of it. It's almost like it's split up, but I usually like kind of hung around Lorraine more often. But, my relationship with Ed was always a good relationship, and it's funny because, when I ask people, I will say, oh, yeah, Ed would call everybody kid and Lorraine would call everybody honey.
Aw.
So those are the two words that I remember most because they used it so much. So, and that's why that's when people have gone back with them. Those words, they care so much about people, and I think that's why I am the way I am, and I care so much about people that help the living and the dead. What I learned from them, it stays with you. It stays with you no matter. I know they've been gone for a while now, especially Ed, but we want to keep that legacy alive. Hence the point. The other part, I am a board member of the newly formed Warren Society, headed up. All of us are pretty much heads of it, but mostly Joe Frankie, who worked side by side with the Warrens for over 30 years. And I think he's the only one still around that spent the most time with them and learned the most from them, as a case in point in demonology, anything like that. People like Jimmy Pettinino, Rick Clark, so the list goes on. We do have a good attachment with John Zaffis, and just the group that wants to keep that memory alive, and the work that they do. And with the Warren Society, people call us from all over the country with their paranormal issues, and we counsel them over the phone or by Zoom or anything like that. And if it's determined that it's a case back in the day that Ed and Lorraine would go to, then we're going to go. But we have teams all over the country that could help out. And so we want to keep that same style that they would do still alive. And I know we've learned a lot more since Ed and Lorraine have passed, but they started, the foundation of it. Nobody's right, 100% right or wrong about the paranormal. People got to understand that instead of pointing fingers at people. We know more now than we probably did. But again, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't know the stuff that we know now. So it has to start somewhere. And that's, very grateful for that. Ed and Lorraine, Dr. Hans Holzer, people like that really brought it to the forefront. We were doing this before the TV shows and stuff like that. And, but that's the thing is we're going back and we used to sit around a table and exchange ideas. And I think that's what this industry needs to get back to. I think that's the most important thing. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. I think more people need to share out. And like I said, who knows? I might have evidence of something that might link to yours that opens it up totally. Yeah. And people keep this to themselves, wanting to, how do I say, become famous or want the fame out of it. When we're all in this together, and if we actually got together through all the information on the table, who knows where we'd be by now? I mean, it could open up a whole new genre.
Exactly. And, and because of that makes our industry a little stagnant. We need to do more. And I really, at this moment, my other thing that I do, my other business partner, Stacia Wills, she's been having this plan for over 20 years. And a whole bunch of us finally came together all over the country, even internationally, to start a healing group called Wardruna. And with Wardruna, it's all intertwined with, people that are in the metaphysical, healers, Reiki masters, anything you could think of, Akashic records, people that past life regressions, anything that could help heal the ancestral trauma of people over the years. But if I'm sitting with somebody who has a spiritual life coach and they're having an issue that I could see as more PTSD, we have a psychologist that I could send them to. We have people that do EMDR, which is, the movement to help people with trauma. And we do have medical doctors on top of that. And this, down to the point we have a dietitian that could help you with your diet for depression. So this is more of a group. It's HIPAA protected. And it is more of a, let's not take the pill. Let's try and figure this out. So, and do it holistically, the whole The whole 9 yards. Basically, let's try and heal you spiritually, mentally, and physically. Because if one of those is off, then they're all going to be off.
Oh, most definitely. I actually had a scenario come up with me a while back. It was several years ago that they couldn't figure out what it was. But then I got a hold of a doctor that was a naturalist and dealt with stuff like this. And she actually figured out what it was. And ever since then, that's how I've been taking care of some of the things, and it does work. You got to be open-minded about it. You got to program your mind to do it. But yes, it does work for sure.
It does. It is. It's a lot to it. Sometimes it's not simple. Sometimes it's easy. There's people that are so spiritually broken that they manifest back problems.
So
Yes.
Once they spiritually become whole, those back problems go away. So there is a way to spiritually heal people. But if somebody's leg is broken, I can't heal that. But if you're spiritually broken, I could help you or mentally and put you in the right direction with the right people that are all on the same page to help you that holistic way instead of popping the pills. But there might come to a point where that might work for you. But it has to be determined by the professionals that are part of our Wardruna crew. But other than that, I am part of, I am an ordained minister, so I'm part of the Holy Sword Apostolate with Father Bob and Father Ken. I'll actually be traveling with Father Bob to speak down in Virginia at the end of this month at the St. Albans Sanatorium for the Enigma Con. So if anybody's in that area, come and say hi. So Father Bob and I will be there, and we'll have fun and just talk about basically his side being a retired Catholic priest and how he approaches things and how I approach things as a shaman and how they intertwine, because both of us do work a lot together on cases that we help people with, because sometimes it isn't all pigeonholed on one thing.
Right.
We have to do the whole thing, every esoteric thing you could think of, because not everybody is Catholic or some people aren't Christian at all. You got to take in what they believe, and that's the energy they might be putting into that home or that land.
Exactly. I definitely agree with that, especially like when I go on investigations and do residentials, that's the first thing I ask them, what their religion, what their background is. And I try to work with that before I do the way I do it. Yeah. Because like I said, to make them understand it, use what they know will help them a lot better.
Yeah,
that's definitely for sure. You brought up Reiki. Do you have anything involved with Reiki? Are you a Reiki master?
Reiki and all that, moving of energy, things like that. That's something that I'm starting to delve into. And I think it's more of Stacey's. My friend Stacey is very good with that. But our main person for the energy department for Wardruna is Kathy Paketic. And her and her husband are at the Ohio State Reformatory. They're the ones that bring you the Parapsychon every year. And I'll be out there in May also to be part of that, which if anybody's going to that, again, come and say hi. I'll be there. But yeah, so she runs that department. She's very good at that. That's like her main thing. She's a shamanic Reiki healer on top of it. So we've done some work together before, and been part of like some times to help people out. And she's so good at it. She could actually walk you through it when you're on the phone with her, and you can help somebody. And she tells you where to put your hands and what to do. And it's pretty amazing. She's really good. So.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. My mentor, when I got into the paranormal, actually when I joined a paranormal team for the first time, and that was like about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, my mentor was a Reiki master, and she's the one that showed me a lot of the things that has to do with Reiki and energy and what I call energy wielding. We also got into the part you talked about a second ago, the Akashic records.
Yep.
I've went into my Akashic records and seen some of my past. Have you had the opportunity to do that?
Not currently yet, but one of our main persons with Wardruna lives right next to me here in Connecticut. Her name is Samaya Eldrath, and she's part of her group, like the Golden Pyramid that she has, and she's very well versed on that. And sooner or later, I'm going to be sitting with a lot of the people part of Wardruna to go through the process for myself, because you always have to work on yourself. You're never 100%. So there's things you always have to work on. And so I really want to start working on things myself because I'm on a path. When you're on the shamanic path, it's never over. You have to keep leveling up. And I think with a lot of this is going to help my journey. Again, everybody's on their own individual journey. All of us that meet, we all give each other words and it helps us on our own journey. But again,
It does.
in the end, you have to make your own decisions on how that journey continues. But a lot of influence around you.
Most definitely.
You always want to
And
have
this
that
man,
positive
Thomas, has helped me already. And so he knows.
So,
Yeah.
Another thing I found interesting that me and you have a lot in common is you're a shaman, and I've been taking classes for over a year and a half now. And like you said, it's a never-ending process. You're always constantly learning and learning something new. How do you relate to the shamanism with what you're doing now, as in the criminology profiling, or did you have the shaman before that?
Well, the shamanism has always been there. It was a matter of me waking up to it. You're chosen. Your spirit guides, your ancestral lines choose you, and it was at a point where I deny it many, many years, and it doesn't put you on a good trajectory. They call it like the shamanic sickness and all that. And so I made a lot of bad decisions in my life and all that with, my first marriage, things like that, and just relationships and stuff. And I think at the point where I really decided to go on my journey again after my mom passed in 2012, that I finally decided something's telling me to get my ass in gear.
Yeah.
And now that my mom passed, she became one of my best spirit guides. She's always beside me, and I've had many. Actually, recently, my friend Stacia called me on the phone. I was on some podcast, and she says, "Your mother just told me in my ear to tell you looked handsome." So, and that's something my
That's
mom
so
would
sweet.
say. My mom always said, "You look so handsome," like in the.
Hey, Chris.
So
Hey, Chris.
when she said that, I knew it was my mom because that's how she would refer when she's happy, and so that's what she did with my brother and I, of course. My sister would always look beautiful, so that's
Right.
that's always the thing, and I always like to hear that. It's been a while since I've heard from my mom, and that made me feel good. And again, those are the things that help you level up. Keeping your ears open and keeping the messages there. Again, I always tell people I don't believe in coincidence. I believe we all meet for a reason. There's the shaman way. Everybody comes into your life for a reason and at the right time.
Yes.
So those are the things we have to take into consider. That's part of our path. Again, like I said, you're on your own path, but there's a lot of people that are going to be part of that path, whether it be a short time or whether it be a long time. So, and it's very important to see that and learn from it.
One thing I've definitely learned going back into my Akashic records, that I have actually met certain people from my past in the present now, which is one of these here. We have a lot in common, and goes back to the Celtic side of it, because we both got the markings of the Celtic and the Druid, which is very interesting. But yeah, I also noticed, since I've been taking shaman stuff and relating into Reiki and nature and how it all comes together, it all forms into one, and it gives you more options, I feel, than just taking one thing. Do you think that holds true?
It does. As a shaman, as a healer, indigenous background too, you have to take in that whatever you believe, I still believe there's a higher power. I believe in God, even though shamanism isn't a religion. It's a spiritual thing also, but you have to look at it in this way. Everything has vibration. Everything has life. Right. And you have to respect that. Right. Whether it be the tree there, if I'm going to cut a tree down, I weirdly as it is, I'm going to talk to the tree. I want to let it know that this is for the greater good and all that, because I believe there's spirit in the tree, and I wanted to know that, it might be its time. And, even before I cut the grass, I let the grass know I'm going to make you look nicer. But, it sounds weird to maybe some people out there, but for me, It's like
No,
talking to you guys right now. Sometimes everything has vibration. It's even true that people that talk to their plants seem to grow better.
Oh yeah.
yes.
Again, everything has vibration. Am I somebody that's going to go out and protest? And no, I know who I am. I think it's important that we know who we are and we project that as a positive in life. And when you project positivity, people are more drawn to that to have a better outcome. I don't need to push it on people.
Right.
When you push things, that's when it creates negativity. So I'm just going to be who I am, and hopefully the people around me hear that and we talk, but they still, again, have to make their own decision on how they want to be and how they want to progress in their journey.
Most definitely. So that leads into something else, since you just brought that part up. Have you ever ran into anybody that keeps manifesting things upon themselves, and you turn around, you give them the advice to help them out, and they keep going back to the same thing? How do you deal with people like that?
I'm going to put it this way: many times in my life. Now, being a shaman, even the parts that I've had cases in the past that are of very bad things happen, which I won't talk about because I don't want to give it power anymore. But I think when it comes down to it, if that person doesn't want help, you can't help them.
Right.
There's sometimes you have to cut away and realize that you give somebody help. If I help somebody clear their house and they still have that same behavior that brought it there to begin with, a couple days later, it's just going to come back. Until they truly spiritually, mentally, and physically want it gone or want to change, you can't change anybody. So don't force it. I give people the opportunity to do the work. If they don't want to do the work and they want to stay that way, that's their right. They have free will. You don't want to see it. You feel bad for them. But again, we all have free will. Again, I could give you the message that's, I think, over years has been positive to help people. But if you don't want it, I can't force it upon you. But if you want my help, I'll give you my help, whether you take it or not. That's your decision to do. So.
I definitely agree with that. I've ran into a few of them like that, and I've tried to help them for a period of time and tell them they got to stop manifesting this bad stuff in their life because it just keeps occurring and occurring and occurring, and they don't change anything to fix it.
Yeah.
And finally, they get to the point at the bottom of the barrel where they just about crack, and you think you're getting to the point where they're starting to accept the change or wanting to change, and then they turn around and go right back to it again. And it's sad. I mean, like you said, you just got to let it go because, like you said, they got to want to change. But it's kind of sad to sit there and watch it happen, because
it is. But you also have to be careful because, we're human. We deal with the spirit world. A lot of people have what's called familiar demons. That's just part of their personality, things that they go through that they hold on to, just like you're talking about. And those familiar demons reach out and they try and attack you as being somebody good. Because in our world, the bad side of it doesn't want things to be good.
Right.
And they're going to attack you in other ways. And you have to know when that's going on and when to cut it off. Again, if you're dealing with somebody that's a narcissist, the best thing to do is not say anything.
Right.
All you have to do is just say, I'm done, and walk away. Because if you're not giving them power, just like a demon, you're not giving it power.
Hey, Thomas, is that the same as me saying, don't give them your energy?
Exactly.
Same thing.
Yep.
Yep.
The thing is once you take away what they want, then they dissipate. Sometimes they might keep trying at you. Stick to your guns. You know who you are. You know your worth. You know who you are, and you need to move away from that. What's up, Nate? So, his first show was last week. It was fantastic.
It was awesome.
Yeah. Those guys are two of my best friends and all that in the paranormal. I love those guys.
Yeah, he did a hell of a job last week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely agree with that. If you keep giving it energy, it's just going to keep going and going and going. And you just got to, like you said, you got to walk away.
Well, it's the same thing. If there's a fire going on and you take away its oxygen, guess what? The fire's out.
Goes away.
So
True.
There's a lot in our world that we learn from. And
Yes.
I hate to say it's simple. Some people have a hard time pulling away. But once you get that overwhelming feeling that it's not going in the right direction, I know it's easier said than done. Get yourself out of there. I know there's a lot of people in relationships that don't know when to say enough is enough. But
Oh yeah,
again,
most
like
definitely.
the stuff that I do, we have people that come to us going through these situations. We give them advice, especially with the Wardruna, the healing and all that. But even
Right.
down to the point where we get people that are going through so much trauma with their relationships, they manifest that haunting at the home. So us as
Right.
the
Oh
water
yeah.
society go in and we're talking to these people and we're determining you guys should just go get some marriage counseling. There's nothing
Hmm.
paranormal going on. Once you guys have that counseling, come to terms, your paranormal issues are probably going to go away.
Oh, yeah,
But
most
that's what you
definitely.
have to discern. So that's
Most
all I have.
definitely.
Yeah.
Especially when they get in there and start fighting like cats and dogs all the time and
Yeah.
never come to terms and find a neutral ground. They
Well,
just keep putting
that
the fire.
energy there, that energy, negative stuff feeds on it. It's to
It
the point
does.
being an empath. If two people are arguing, if I was going over somebody's house, they were arguing before I showed up, I would
Oh
know.
no.
Once you open the door, I know that energy.
Oh
You
yeah.
would know before you got there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
would.
Yep.
Yeah. Most definitely. Most definitely for sure.
But even normal people, you could pick up on it. Again, I've told everybody, I'm nothing special. It's just I practice the muscle. Everybody has the
Mhm.
ability to be able to discern or psychically pick up on things or mediumship or anything like that. We're all at different levels. We're all born with it. It kind of
Right.
goes away after critical thinking kicks in, and it doesn't really come back until you're near death, because you start seeing your loved ones coming to you to take you home or wherever you go after you die. But a lot of times in between, we don't recognize it until something traumatic happens or a near death experience. And
Mhm.
again, people
Yeah.
like our friend Lee and my friend Stacia, that's been generations of family that have
Mhm.
had this ability. So they've developed it from day one, as opposed to some of us, like me, didn't realize what I had until I was a teenager. And that way, once you know,
Or like me,
and you
denied it
come
for
to
years.
exactly, once you come to terms with it and you know
Hmm.
what it is, you really start leveling up, and it
Yeah.
helps you personally to get everything in line. People call it
Yes.
chakras. I'm more of the spirit,
Mhm.
mental, and physical. If I have all three of those simply in line, then I'm more able to help others. But I know
Yes,
Most
you
I
are.
have to keep leveling up to help more and more people be better. And, if you watched me over the years, there's been a lot of times I've been on a lot of shows that my outlook keeps changing because I keep leveling up, and you can really see that. So,
Yeah. So how do I say this? I know when I was younger and I knew I had something. I didn't understand it back then, and nobody really would talk about things back then as well.
mhm.
And I didn't really notice until I turned about 21. And then I became a little religious, I guess. I joined the Catholic Church and started going to church because my parents gave me that option. When I got of age, I can do what I want. They said you can join the church, do what you want. I'd start having dreams all the time and etc. And I would see things that would happen and like precognition type stuff and before it happened. And did you ever get to a point where it scared you and you just had to take a step back and look at it from a different perspective?
I think, before I knew what I had, yes. Then when I knew what I had and I knew what it was and came to terms with it, that really doesn't scare me because I know. I've had a lot of cases over the years that you can make movies about, but again, I don't give it power anymore. Um, but that's the whole thing. There's too many people nowadays running into all these buildings, going on YouTube and saying everything's demonic.
Right.
Oh
Until you
no.
really run into it, when you experience the real thing for the first time, or the second time, or the third time, or the fourth time, you know not to play with it. I have to help a family and I have to go through it with them, but I
Mm-hmm.
will not talk about particular cases that happened. Yeah, it'll never happen. Probably after I pass away and about to pass away, maybe I'll make sure nobody forgets those cases. But
Right.
until then, I'm not going to be the one that brings it back. I'll tell you that
How about
much.
writing them down? Would you do that?
No, still giving it power.
Yeah, because that would give it power.
I mean, toward the end. Yeah.
Yeah, if I knew my time was coming, but that's unfortunate. As being a shaman, your energy changes, and I've talked to other shamans before that left this world, and they
Yes.
unfortunately, that's probably the scariest part of being a shaman. It's almost like it's coming, and
Mhm.
you're
Yeah.
preparing to pass on to the next generation, because that's what healers, indigenous, have always done. They've always known, okay, who in the family am I passing the torch to? And
Right.
that's when you have to start preparing for that.
And one of the things I do, because my daughters are not interested, I know they're both empaths, and one acknowledges, one don't, and that's one thing I do with the team is I actually pass on that knowledge to my team, so they can keep going with it, so they can go on. Hello, Lori. Thanks for stopping in, and Della Newsom, thanks for stopping in as well. But yeah, I'm definitely passing down information to my teammates and etc. And me and Gwen's even had some long conversations about stuff with energy and
definitely
stuff that we've dealt with as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, as the shaman side of us, I definitely agree. When time's coming, you definitely feel the energy around you. You know how to focus it. You know how to do what it needs to be done, and to be able to pass that on to somebody is a great thing to be able to do. But they also have to have the knowledge and wisdom to be able to use it properly as well. You just don't want to give that knowledge to somebody that's going to abuse that power once you give it to them.
Yep.
So
yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like power, I don't look at it as a power. I just look at it as an ability and all that. But yeah, your discernment, your way of doing things, and pulling energy in on that, it is a responsibility. You have to accept that responsibility.
I guess my terminology for the word power was different, but power to me is like knowledge. That's the way I look at it.
I always say knowledge. I'm weird with certain words.
But yeah,
nothing wrong with power, but every time people talk about power per se, not that it's a negative, but to me it feels like that. But
yeah,
use any word you want. I'm just telling you how I look at things and all that.
Yeah.
Maybe it might help you. Maybe I was meant to tell you this to help you to level up on your next level of using the right words, and what you throw out to the universe is going to come back on you too. You got to realize that your self-talk,
very true.
how you talk to others.
Very true. I do try to catch myself from time to time, and like I said, power and knowledge. Some people, like you say, interpret it a little different. Some people think it's the power of this, but sometimes I think it's knowledge. Knowledge is power, but it goes hand in hand.
It is.
So
it's knowledge, it's understanding, it's accepting, it's ridding yourself of ego. That's probably the most important thing to do as a shaman, is rid yourself of ego.
That was definitely one of the things that had come across, letting all that go and not making myself number one all the time. It's putting the people, my clients, who I'm helping first, because that's who you got to be there to help.
Yeah. So, you are selfless, but leaving ego, it is, you still have to take care of you. You can't take care of others if you're broken.
Exactly.
Right.
You have to be able to take care of you too. That's not ego when you got to take a few moments to take care of yourself. But in the big picture, yes, I have to be at my best. If I'm ill or not feeling well and I'm supposed to do an investigation, I'm going to have to cancel, unfortunately, because I'm not bringing my best, and I leave myself open. You got to realize when, for me, there's a lot of research, there's a lot of history, there's a lot of phone calls back and forth. The investigation at a home case is my last resort. So, and people got to understand that. You don't want to just run into stuff all the time. You really have to look at it on all ends and discern everything. But again, I'm talking about cases that we do are high-end cases. We get called from all over the country.
Right.
You know, all the guys that are part of the Warren Society have over 30 plus years of experience. Are we experts? No, we're still experiencing new stuff every day, but we've seen a lot, so we know how we're possibly going to deal with it. There's my buddy Kenneth Drake. So you
Yeah,
must have knew I was
I got to
getting
meet
in the
him last
spirit.
week. Oh, well,
Yeah,
online.
yeah, he's the best. So I'm waiting to have my cup of bourbon with him when he comes up to Connecticut. So you know.
Oh, I can't. And I'm trying to talk him into joining a certain network. You know what I mean?
Ooh, I wonder what network that was.
Might have to do
They
some
can
arm
fit
twisting
right
there,
in.
Quinn.
Yeah,
Might have to do a little bit of arm twisting.
I might have to work on him for you.
He'd
Yeah.
make a great addition. Yeah.
Yeah, he could help a lot of people. He's very inspirational, and I think that's the big thing. Another thing in our industry we're missing. We forget to take the time to inspire each other to do better, or to help, you know, inspire them to see the fact that, hey, I need to change my journey's not going in the right direction, but make
Right.
that decision. So inspiration is very important. So, yeah.
Jamie Lynn Keller, do you get paranormal hangovers? Huh?
Do you still get
Derek.
paranormal hangovers? I think is what you asking.
Yeah.
Is he asking us or is he asking Jamie?
Yeah, and I'm like,
not
where's
sure.
Jamie? Yeah, that's what I was kind of debating on here. It's like, it's Derek from Eternal Paranormal, and he says, Jamie Lynn Keller, do you get paranormal hangovers?
Well, I think people, what he's referring to, I think, is when, like, let's go to a Paracon and we do a lot of Paracons or an investigation, and after, and you go home, it's just the same thing. You're still amped up from it. You know,
yeah.
I used to get them when I first started.
Yeah.
Really bad, like a day in the bed. But now, I have figured out how to ground shield.
Yeah.
And, you know, my friends like Thomas has taught me a lot. So, and of course, my mentors, Lee and Matt, you know. Yep.
And
we do a lot. We're always helping each other. Yeah, we do shows together, but I think
it's not
the
just
show
that.
gets better as we help each other and all that.
Yes. And of course, Blaine's also. Yeah. He has helped me a lot too. So I gotta say that.
Blaine is so funny. It's what we're gonna start doing, I think, on Mondays. Yeah. Everybody that's watching, we want them to vote on what they want as the hashtag of the week. So
yes,
Leg of Joe going and
Leg
all the other ones. Yeah. So I don't think anything's ever gonna beat Leg of Joe, but you never know. You never know. We're only saying something, we don't realize what comes out of our mouth, then it's funny when we have to hashtag it. So we want to make sure everybody, you know, watches and listens to what we're saying. If something sounds cool, you know, chime in and say, hey, that should be a hashtag. And, you know, that way we'll have it be, it's almost like the theme of the week, you know? So
yes.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yep. So at the end of this show, we're going to play your commercial, right? Because I loaded it up, Sean.
Ooh.
I haven't actually looked. I seen your little message here. Let me look.
I sent you a message to Tom.
Yeah.
Okay.
On your Facebook. I had a question.
I'm afraid to look because I might go away. I might disappear.
Don't go away.
I'll show you the real magic of the shaman world as I go away.
So
go to the other side of the veil. Hey, see ya.
Yeah. Don't go there.
You definitely brought up something a little while ago that I definitely do as well, is do a lot of grounding before you go into places, and Gwen says she does as well. What's one of the personal things that you do before you go into an investigation for grounding wise?
My big thing is, you know, I was born and raised Catholic, and even though I'm a shaman, I do call on the archangels. I do call on my higher power. I do call on God. I do call on my Savior, Jesus Christ, and those types of things. But yeah, being a shaman doesn't mean that I can't believe in what I believe in. Everybody has different beliefs. I still call on that. I still want the blood of Jesus around me, especially when I'm in spiritual battle. I want the light of God around me. I want the protection of the archangels, like the Archangel Michael, to protect us in battle and what we go into. And when I picture that, you know, I do that. But also I'm being a shaman, one of the most powerful things to do is to create your space by doing the directions and calling in your spirit animal, the directions, the elements. It could be so many different things, but for me, it's not the same every time. I take in the energy of that home or that land, and that changes up how I do my 4 directions. So that way it's specifically for that energy that I'm picking up.
That's definitely an interesting way of doing that. I mean, I'll go in there and I'll do my grounding and stuff as well before I go in. And then when I get there, what I pick up. But that's kind of an interesting thing you said, your directional style. That actually gives me a few ideas of a couple things. So that's kind of cool. I picked up something.
Well, the whole thing is I'm very non-ritualistic. My spirit guides will give me the words when I need them. They come in and they feel like my own thoughts. But I know when I'm in spirit, I meditate to go into something. I know they're not my own thoughts. They're my spirit guides guiding me to help, whether it be this land, this home, the people in the home, and my teammates around me. So
that's one thing my shaman mentor has taught me. For one thing, he said, what works for you may not work for somebody else. And be able to have a variety of things that so that if you come across it, to be able to deal with it. So that's a good way to leave. Like you said, you got to have an open minded to be able to deal with some of the stuff in a different way as well.
Exactly, because the thing is when you become ritualistic, especially if you're in spiritual battle, don't let the darkness or anything like that know your game plan. Even though they can read you and all that other stuff. But I always tell people, I don't know what I'm going to do until I need to do it.
Exactly. And I've been on a couple cases that we've dealt with some really bad stuff. And like you said, it comes to you at the time, and then it's like, okay, this is what's going to happen. And then that's how it happens. Definitely deal with it for sure.
But it's tough because a lot of times in spiritual battle, it could be short, but it could be extended over time. But for me, actually being a former, crisis negotiator, it's almost the same thing. The most powerful thing in our lives is when people say your name. So if you get the name of something, you have power over it. So you have control to the point where then you could ask, how did you come in? How did you come to this point, whatever type of energy it is? And when are you going to leave? And then when you have those 3 things, that's the 3 things that in an exorcism is the only 3 things that the priest will directly say to whatever it is. They're going to do the prayers of exorcism, but finally when they come to the point where it leaves the opening, it's going to ask them those 3 questions. So after that, it's almost like it's near that end and all that. But, sometimes an exorcism could take 60 some odd exorcisms, or sometimes it could be just like a deliverance very quickly. There's so many different things. It depends what you're dealing with, because possession is probably the hardest thing. You got those stages of that. I've dealt more with oppression and obsession more than possession, but those are rare. Possession, again, I'm leaving that to the clergy. But, if I need to assist, just main thing, if you ever have to assist on something like that, your job is to hold somebody and give your energy and have your spirit guides and any angelic thing work through you under the discretion of the clergy that's doing the exorcism, and never look at it in the eye. So your job is just to hold somebody there. It seems very mundane, but it's probably one of the most important things that you could do for that person to release them from their affliction.
Yeah, I definitely get that part of that, because that's definitely true. It holds true for being able to be able there for them as well. That's definitely awesome for sure. So my other question, well, I know you've been in emergency medicine.
Yep.
You've been
somebody else around here that was the same thing.
I know. Isn't it funny?
Yeah. You've been in corrections for trauma and crisis management, right?
Mhm.
And criminal profiling, did that come along at the same time, or did you
That
study
was
that?
part of the corrections. Criminal profiling, of course, I dealt with criminals, the crisis management and all that. But the profiling was just part of what I did. It's not a particular job that you could get. You do go through some training with FBI type of training and all that to prepare for this. But when you work in a prison system, it's a different kind of negotiation. It's not what you see
Yeah.
on TV. Because if I'm dealing with an escaped inmate, there is no really any negotiations. Either come out
Right.
or you're going to take a few in the chest. It's a different type of negotiation. Even to the point, escaped inmates. A lot of people don't realize is it's serious business. There's no holds bar. To the point where they have the towers at the prisons where the gunmen are up on. If
Yes.
somebody touches the fence, an inmate touches the fence, they're warned. They
Mm-hmm.
start climbing the fence, a warning shot goes off. They keep going, guess what?
Mm-hmm.
They're taking a shot. So it's all she wrote. That's serious. And so I mean, people don't realize what we go through or what I went through psychologically. When you work in a prison, they shut that Sally Port gate or they shut the gate behind you. You're in it.
You're in there too. Yes.
Yeah, technically, you work an 8-hour plus shift. So 8 hours, 24 hours a day. So after 3 years, it's like being in prison for a year. So
Yeah.
it is. And again, I tell people all the time, be careful. The difference at the time when I was an officer, the difference between us and them is they got caught. At any time, you can make a mistake in your life and end up in prison. So, that's the difference. And I know when I work there, it's a matter of them, following the rules and things like that. And respect's a big thing. As an officer, if you want your day to go right, you give respect just like they'll give you. So if something wrong either way, then that's when problems happen. So we want to keep the problems to a minimum and all
Right.
that. So I call it adult babysitting. That's basically what it was. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So they call you the Archangel of the Paranormal.
Mhm.
How did you get that name?
Oh my God! People used to say that I used to get called in on the hard cases and help people resolve. And it's almost like the same thing, calling the archangels. And somebody started calling me, you're like an archangel and whatever. A woman when I a few people that I've helped at their homes, and that's the way they look at it on the religious side of it. It kind of stuck. Had a kind of a snappy meeting and all that, and I appreciate that, and I'm very grateful for that too. And I think that's a big thing to be recognized that way. But I want to basically I go by it because when the shit hits the fan, I want people to know that they could depend on me to help them with those issues, and I take it very seriously. And I'm not one. I'm not looking for fame. I'm not looking for. Of course, in this business, you're never going to have fortune, unfortunately.
Right.
No.
But, and even fame, it's fleeting too.
Yeah.
Really, when it comes down to it, if you're seeking fame and fortune, I'm telling you, people, it's not going to happen.
Right.
You're going to get your 15 minutes. Yeah, that's great. But when it comes down to it, the fame is for the family that you help.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
the
it
fortune is knowing that you helped somebody that couldn't sleep for 2 years because of their paranormal issue and they finally can. That's your value right there. Once
Right.
you realize that, then all this other stuff is gravy, and you don't have to seek that fame or fortune because you already have it. So you already have it and help people. So.
I definitely agree with that. Just right after I formed this team a year ago, last January, the new team, the Eternal X Wolfpack Paranormal, we had a client. She was about 85 years old, an elderly lady, and called us about some of the noises, and she was getting her leg tugged and cabinets were opening and stuff. We ended up going to her house, and I got there before, and I kind of did a little research before the rest of the team got there, and she was really nervous. She said, I hope we don't find nothing bad here. I hope we don't do this. And I'm worried about that. And I was like, well, don't be worried. I said, we'll get to figuring out what it is.
Okay.
And then the the team showed up and they're gun ho. And like I said, they're new ones. And I was trying to teach them at the same time. But told them we're going to go in there. We're going to record just little stuff. We're not going to do anything live or anything like that. We're just going to do little things. So we set up our gear. We finally figured out what it was. And the elderly lady wanted to go back and chat with them because we found out it was a couple children's spirits that were there because they kept toying around with certain things. And they were trying to scare us. And they say, well, I'm a demon. I'm the devil. I'm this. So it's trying to scare you. And I'm like, no, come on, no. And then you hear this little thing or this or that. And finally she said, I'd like to go back there to that room. So I took her back there and she goes, hello. And it comes over the box. It goes, hi. And then it goes, old. And she goes, I'm not old. And you hear this giggle. And I'm like, okay. She goes, do you like staying here? And it just giggled again. And then we kept getting other responses and names and stuff. And finally, I walked her back to the kitchen. She goes, Sean, what are you going to do with these spirits, these two children's spirits? I said, well, we can get them to leave or they can stay here. I said, but I'm going to tell you something. I think this is what's going on. I said, I think they think you're a grandma figure. That's why they're tugging on your leg. They're knocking on the walls. They're opening up your cabinets. They're trying to get your attention. Yeah. And she goes, well, she said, can they stay? And I said, well, would you like them to stay? And she goes, they can stay if they behave. And I said, okay. And I said, well, I'll give you some advice. I said, open up a book once in a while and read it. Read it out loud. Give them some attention, like a children's book or something. Or play some music from that time in that era, because we kind of figured out what it was, because kids like that stuff. But I said, you got to remember, they're going to tug on your leg. They're wanting attention, or these cabinet doors are going to open because they're trying to get your attention. They want acknowledgement. Yeah. And she said, okay. She said, they can stay, but I'm going to keep your phone number on my refrigerator. And if something happens, you're going to be the first one to call. So anyway, I let it go for about a week. And I come back and I knock on the door and I said, hey, it's Sean. And she goes, oh, hi, Sean. She goes, I'm so glad you come by and stopped here and checked on me and stuff. She said, I was about ready to sell my house before you guys came over. But now since I understand what's going on, she said, I'm not going to sell my house. I'm staying here. I actually like where I'm at. And I tell you what, knowing that we did the job we did for her and made her feel comfortable in her own house, like you said, is the best feeling you could ever get.
It is, especially being able to recognize that. The most important thing when you do a home case is take the fear away. Usually that's all it takes.
Right.
Let them take their power back, the energy that was sucked away from them from these energies that they didn't understand. They take their power back. Once they do that, a lot of things have changed. But again, and Gwen knows this, and I've talked about it. Yes. For me, passing spirits on, that's something I'm well known for. That's the only thing that there's a lot of these locations that, these pay-to-play places, I like to call them, that won't invite me because they're afraid I'm going to get rid of their moneymakers. But
we talked about going to that certain one, remember?
Yeah, but the thing is the moneymakers got to understand that when I come, if a spirit wants to leave, my spirit guides tell it to call my name. So if you ever want an investigation with me and you hear my name called, if I'm not in the room, come and get me because it wants my help. The thing is we're not in this business. Yes, your place is haunted. Yes, you're trying to make money. I understand that. But if something wants to leave, do not hold it hostage.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Most definitely.
That's what I want to tell people. If something doesn't want to leave, I'm not making it leave because it wants to be there, and people don't understand that.
We had
make everything leave. So.
We had a place here where I live at in Galesburg. They found a half body in it to begin with. And I brought this up before, and another team went and investigated it, and they said it was really heavy in there. So they called our team to come help them. And we found out that the spirit that was in there was holding kid spirits in there as well. And as soon as we got rid of the one that was holding, we had 12 names come across the obelisk, and they left. They got away. They left.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a good feeling. We got rid of that bad one in there. It was holding them in there.
Well, it is. A lot of times what you're talking about is that one spirit, that dark spirit that's holding other spirits there.
Yes.
In the shaman world, sometimes when you pass with trauma, that trauma manifests into your trauma. Whether it was the person that killed you, it's holding you back from leaving because of that memory. You manifest even the spirit world without your meat suit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a matter of cutting that trauma to give these spirits that want to leave the ability to leave. It's almost like you as a shaman are holding them off while the other ones get to escape and go to where they're meant to be. You're separating them from their trauma. Once you discern that, it's the process sometimes is cut and dry, but sometimes it's very difficult. I've been dealing with one in Connecticut for a few years at a gallery, and every time I go there, I attempt to separate, but this spirit was intoxicated at the time of his murder, and energy's holding him there, and I think he is still in that energy of intoxication and just doesn't understand. And it's a matter of trying to do that and trying to learn. Like I said, I keep leveling up. I'm hoping that sooner or later I pick up on something that's that one thing that's going to help that spirit. So I never give up. So I never give up on anybody that truly needs help. So.
That's awesome.
It is.
That's awesome. And like I said, every time I see you on the show with Gwen and Lee and Blaine, my bad, Blaine. You know, I learned something. I always learn something new, you know, and I retain it, and that's a good thing because I like learning new stuff and definitely getting behind some of the things that you guys really dig into and some of the mental issues as well. That's definitely very helpful as well.
Yeah, and a lot of people, if you haven't seen the show, just tune in. We don't glorify the serial killers or the murderers that we talk about.
No.
I think a lot of our show is to educate people on what to look out for, whether it be you raising your kids or your town and what they see with the kids going on in the town, or just you moving around and meeting certain people that give you those red flags and what to look out for. I think more and more as we do the show, more and more people are seeing this and trying to avoid becoming the victim, because in general, and 33 times in your life, you'll come across a serial killer, either directly or indirectly.
That's scary.
Yeah, and we want you to be able to avoid the direct contact and all that. Right. I know Lee went through it and all that, and we had an episode about that, which was very, very powerful about her opening up. But that's what happened with our show. You never know what you're going to get. We kind of sit at the seat of our pants sometimes.
Yes,
we go into the episode with our knowledge, and we try and play off each other and what we know and let somebody go. But the main thing for me when I'm on the show is just my background is I'm going to break it down the psychological reasons. That's kind of mine. And I know Lee and Gwen really work on a lot of the history. And Blaine always, with his psychology background, takes other looks at it. And he's like our humor guy too. He's always coming up with something funny. But sometimes you have to break the intensity of it. And I think we all bring something to the table that's important. That's why a lot of people, have been tuning in. It is important. We need to learn. We need to learn what to avoid. We need to know that the victims and all that are not forgotten. And I think that's important, how we break things down on the show.
Most definitely. And like I said, the way you guys do it, you always learn something new. Like I said, I'll sit back and I'll listen to it. And sometimes I don't even actually physically watch. I'll drop it down the screen and I'll sit there and listen to it. And then when something comes up, I'll pop it back up. It's like, okay, now I want to see what you're digging into.
Yeah.
And you definitely learn something new. And like I said, I constantly learn something new all the time when I listen to you guys.
I do too. So,
and I definitely like digging into the psychological parts of it. And that's one of the things that I think me and you got in common, besides the shaman and stuff like that, is the psychological part of it, because we want to break it down, find out why, and etc., and start exploring it from the outside or inside, and whatever direction we can take it.
Yeah, that's one of my other favorite things. Like I said, I want to help the living and the dead, but most importantly, after all these years, I'm at this moment in my life that I want to teach. What I've gained over, the last, many decades, I want to pass on to people, and doing a podcast like that, passing on, my thoughts and my opinions and what I've learned in how to take apart, the psyche of somebody and why they might have done something. But again, for me, that and the paranormal are very similar. We're never going to know exactly why a serial killer does what they do. There's pattern. I've talked about it. We don't know the fingerprint. But even in the paranormal, we don't know why the spirits come or anything like that. We don't know why they're there. It's all about the chase and the learning the knowledge and hopefully coming to a conclusion that helps. And, I think we're closer with, the criminal mind than we are with the paranormal mind. But I think, they are very intertwined. And that's why I'm so happy that, my partner agreed to do paranormal and true crime this year, because they are side by side. You think about it. Amityville, there was a murder. DeFeo kid murdered his whole family. Now it became supposedly haunted. Lizzie Borden, the axe murder there, the house is haunted. Basilica Axe Murder House, the murder happened. There's that traumatic event of a true crime. Most of the time leads to something that leaves energy and becomes paranormal. So they are intertwined. I think they go hand in hand, and I think that's why people are so intrigued by both of them, because it's that I want to find out, but it's never going to get stagnant in a way if you really look at it that way.
True. Very true. Yep. Well, Thomas, we've passed the hour already, and definitely. And I could go on and on with you about certain subjects, I'm sure, and start digging into things. I know you like digging down the rabbit hole and things like that as well.
Did you say the rabbit hole? What now?
Maybe one of these
weirdos out there. We're going down the rabbit hole. So
one of these nights we're gonna
boards ready.
One of these nights I'll have to have you back on, and we'll start talking about some conspiracies, maybe, and going down.
There you go.
Because I do like talking about that.
Yeah,
I do like talking about that a lot. But I kind of just wanted to learn a little more about you in general, and let my followers know more about you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And it's a very interesting show tonight. I appreciate you coming on tonight. I really enjoyed talking with you and learning a few more things and etc. And I'm sure I could probably learn a lot more from you. And I'm glad
we do that for each other. I learned from you. I've learned from Gwen. That's the thing as I'm talking about. Let's just make a big table to everybody in this industry to sit at and exchange those ideas. You could have somebody that's been doing it for a day and somebody who's been doing it for like 40 years. I learned something from them. You got to stay open to that. That's where ego goes away, and knowing that we're trying to help people, and they might have an idea they might have the idea that puts it over the edge. So be open.
True.
Well, like I said, I'm thankful to actually get to meet you. And like I said, I got to meet you when I finally come onto the network with you guys. And we've chatted a little bit from time to time. And, like I said, we're definitely going to have you on again, and we'll start maybe talking about the rabbit hole. We'll pick a subject and kind of dig down it and see how far we can go without getting in trouble.
Oh, that would be good.
Hold it on the branches.
Yeah.
Because I know there's some shows that I've done that before, and we got booted off. Because we've actually dug down in there and somebody didn't like it and they just cut the show off. But we'll definitely kind of figure out a subject and definitely have you back on, and we'll talk about some of that and what you think, and we'll kind of compare some notes and etc. But I definitely appreciate you coming on here and talking a little bit about yourself, especially. Like I said, I've learned a lot more about you, and that's pretty cool. Like I said, you're more than a triple threat for sure. And there's a lot of knowledge here for everybody to learn from. And you are definitely one of those type of people that reach out and talk to, and you can learn a lot of things from you.
Yeah. We'll be out on the road quite a bit this year. We're going to be all over the place. Again, Virginia at the end of the month, out to Ohio in May, the Connecticut Paracon. I'll be out in California, and I think it's in August, and, of course, Salem. We're all over the place. Just follow us online, and Thomas Patrick Gormley on Facebook, Archangel the Paranormal on Instagram, TikTok. Every episode of podcasts I've been on, there's quite a few of them on YouTube if you want to take a look at some of the old stuff.
Spotify.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's another one. That's our buddy Matt listens on the way home from work. So
yes, and he says it sounds awesome. So
yeah. So tune in on that and get some cool sounds from that. But look us up if you are in the New England area, or if you're willing to travel. Come to our Connecticut Paracon. Get to meet all of us, Gwen, myself, and Lee, and Matt, and Blaine, and the crew from Serial Killers, Supernatural, and Murderers. And what do we got coming up?
We might just do a live show.
Yeah,
there.
maybe we might, because it might be some kind of anniversary going on that same day.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But Monday, join us. We're going to be talking about something in the news right now. There's a particular show on Paramount playing right now. I know it's based off of the true story. They kind of Hollywooded it up a little bit, but we'll be talking about the Happy Face Killer.
Oh, wow.
Monday. So that's going to be a good one.
I'll definitely be tuning in for that. And like I said, I share it on my channel as well, and my YouTube channel.
It plays on his.
Definitely share out all your stuff, and you guys share out mine as well. And I'm grateful to be associated with all you guys. I've, met a lot of new people there, you and Gwen and Blaine and Lee and Matt. And so I'm looking forward to meeting all you guys eventually as well. And
we all got to support each other no matter what.
Yes.
Again, we have this network. We have all our individual shows.
That's what the network's about. I'll preach it for 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
We support each other. We don't have drama. The flow, as I call it, and people go, what? Is just calm. We tune in as much as we can.
Awesome.
We just, we're family, a little tribe. So
and we definitely all work well together, and that's awesome. And that's one thing
we end up coming on all each other's shows and giving a new perspective to everything. And I think that's what's important. Just because they're watching Serial Killers and Supernatural, people that watch, say, myself and Gwen on that, then we're on another show, they see a different angle. And I think that makes us holistically in this genre or anything, just that's what makes people want to tune into the All Access.
It is. And Thomas and his business show partner, Charles are coming on. Are coming on Paranormal Surge, which is mine and Sean's show.
And we're also doing Nate's show.
Yes.
Nate's show. And then the thing is, when Charles and I are on with you, I will be in a hotel room on my way down to the St. Albans with Father Bob. So Bob would probably chime in while we're on. So who knows?
That's fine too. That's fine too. But as long as you and Charles are good with it.
Yeah.
But we'll be talking about the con and different stuff, because I actually have never talked to Charles like that, and that's great.
He's definitely the showman. So you like my sarcasm? So little quick story. We'll probably talk about it again before we end. When Charles and I first met, I looked at him, he looked at me, and he says, "I don't like you," and I said, "I don't like you either." 2 days later, he needed a new shaman, and he called me, and I said, "Hey, I'll help you out," and then we just clicked. So
there
it's
you
the
go.
funniest thing, because we got each other's sense of humor, and we knew, and we've been together for a little over 2 years now, so doing what we need to do to bring the paranormal to the masses.
Yeah, I definitely see some of your comments in our chats, and I kind of want to put my twisted sense of humor in it, but since I'm the newer one of the bunch, I kind of I kind of fade back a little bit, but I know me and Thomas has got a lot in common.
I will. That's one of my fortes. I like to make people laugh. I think laughter brings spirit up even higher than
it does. Makes you feel better.
Especially on an investigation. When you are sitting there with a group laughing, the spirits come out and they want to join in.
They do.
Better way to do it.
They do.
But like I said, I definitely noticed that me and you got a twisted sense of humor, and I think that's cool. But like I said, since I'm the new one of the bunch, I kind of keep quiet and watch and learn, from you guys to see what I can say, what I can't once in a while. I don't want to be getting in trouble.
Go ahead and say it.
But yeah. So like I said, I'm going to drop you in the back. Is there anything you'd like to promote real quick, Thomas, before we put you in the back?
I think I really threw it down, but yeah, go on Paracon, PARACONN.org. You could get your tickets on there. If you're coming from out of town, you could click on hotels, and there's discounted hotels within, a 10-mile radius of the facility. So that way you have somewhere to stay and enjoy everything going on all weekend. Again, there's still some surprises coming, so make sure you keep your eye on the network. The website with all the things popping up. Of course, our main guest again, Butch Patrick, who played Eddie Munster, and again, all the cast from Serial Killers, Supernatural, and Murderers will all be there, potentially doing a live on some kind of anniversary that could be coming up. So,
if I can find a way, I'm going to sneak there. We'll see what happens.
Oh God, yeah. So yeah,
that'd be cool.
They'll throw you in the Airbnb that they're going to be at. So that's the other thing. If you're coming up, you got a group coming, get an Airbnb. It's less expensive. If you're worried about how much it costs, you get enough people come with you. It's only $20 to get in. It's inexpensive to get to enjoy some of the speakers that are going to be there, and most of the speakers that we invite have something to say, and I think it's a good learning experience, and it always helps a lot of the groups that are in the paranormal. It helps them be better at their craft. So,
and we're going to play the commercial, and you'll see all these people. It's like 30, or is it more?
30 plus.
30 plus. I did not count every single one, but
we just round a round number of 30 and then a plus next to it. So who knows? There might be some additional. I think there might be one more additional main person, but we're still trying to figure that out.
Okay, sounds cool.
And it's a big one. So.
All right, like I said, Thomas, thanks for stopping in and getting to know you a little better.
I appreciate really getting to know you a lot better too there, my friend Sean. So.
And we're going to drop you backstage. Stay back there a little bit. We're going to finish out with some commercials here real quick, and we'll chat with you backstage. Nice. And like I said, greatly appreciate you coming on, and thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, thanks everybody for watching tonight too.
All right, we're going to drop Thomas backstage here.
Yes, thank you.
Thomas is awesome, man. Like I said, getting to know him.
Yes, he is.
Sitting there talking to him and unwrapping the packages and the fact of knowing what he knows and etc. That's definitely interesting because it's definitely more than I see in normal. And that's why I kind of wanted to touch tonight, kind of dig into the back of his background a little bit and understand him more. Because I definitely find he's an interesting person and definitely interesting to talk to, and definitely you can learn a lot from him. So that's one of the cool things about Tom. He has helped me
a bunch of times now.
So that's definitely one of the cool things about him. So I got 2 commercials to run, and I've got one ad we're going to put up for a comic. I've got it loaded back here. So we're definitely going to run Thomas's ad here first real quick, and then we'll do the next one. Here we go. That was cool. That was definitely cool.
Very good.
So we have a comic book artist that will be coming on this show. We had him on Paranormal Surge, and I told him we would run some ads for him. So this is from Austin Light. Check out the comic he's doing here. This is a comic he's going to be doing, so he's looking for funding to be able to back some of his comic stuff, and you can definitely find him at envycomics.com. And it's about demons and stuff.
Paranormal Surge this week.
Yeah, and we'll have him on there and talking about this comic he's doing. And I've seen some of the pictures. He's a hell of an artist, so definitely tune in and check him out on Thursday when we have him on Paranormal Surge. Yes. So I told him I'd flash that. And then we've got this one right here that I said I would promote for July, and it's the Paranormal Rockdown. Check it out.
Brace yourself for the Paranormal Rockdown, July 18th and 19th, 2025 at the Haunted Broadhead Manor. Friday night, rock out with Dead Amsterdam, Left on Red, and headliner Green Jelly. The music may not be the only thing shaking these walls. Rumor has it the spirits love a good beat. Will you meet one? Saturday, meet paranormal legends like Dave Schrader, Sam Baltrusis, and more. Enjoy thrilling workshops, tasty treats, and a live Zoom Q&A with Dustin Perry. Dive into the ultimate paranormal investigation with expert guides. Or join a spine-tingling seance with Sam Baltrusis. Tickets are limited. Get yours now for an unforgettable weekend of music, mystery, and chills.
I will definitely be in the crowd at the Paranormal Rockdown, and definitely come and check it out. It'll definitely be a hell of a time. And we also have one more ad that our producer here had makes, and she does a hell of a job doing it. And this is for All Access Network Television. Here we go. You do great work, Gwen.
Thank you. And the new one will have Paranormal Surge on it. So, yeah.
It'll have Paranormal Surge, and it'll also have a couple more people's pictures in there in the lineup as well.
Yes, it will. And tomorrow night, join us. Okay? 4 shows. Crazy. I call it Manic Monday, and it is. First, we have Bridging Seen and Unseen with Shane McClain. Second, we have, of course, Serial Killers, Supernatural, and Murderers with myself, Thomas, Letriana Brown, Blaine Rohan, Yeah, blame right hand. And then third we have Mark Walsh with The Ghost of Tennessee. And then last but not least, of course, we have Chad Zumwalt with Chasing Nightmares.
All of them
and
great shows.
Yes.
All of them great shows. Definitely go check them out. And then Thursday night we have me and Gwen have Paranormal Surge with Austin Light will be our guest.
Yep. Wednesday we have Chris O'Toole and Nathaniel Elwell. And those are great shows too. So join us for anything you see. So.
Yep. And definitely next Sunday on Eternal X Wolfpack Paranormal, we will have Ms. Lee Brown, the CEO of All Access Network Television, on here, and we'll be discussing the network and a few things that she does as well. So thank you, Gwen, for coming on, co-hosting tonight.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank Thomas again for coming on. And everybody, have a great rest of your weekend. We're out of here.